What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Going the Distance podcast presented by ImmaculateSports.com. Twitter's at ImmaCSports.
Instagram at ImmaCSports.
TikTok, YouTube, Immaculate Sports. It's episode 240. We're about 15 games into the MLB season. So we got some more power rankings. We'll talk about some of the guys who had a great week. And then to finish it off here, today is the first day of the play-in. So we got full NBA playoff predictions. Some very crazy matchups in the West, we already know, but also going to go through the East, conference finals, all that, MVP. Going to be fun.
Yeah, should be a good episode. Also kind of fitting if you take off the 0 of our episode and then flip the number around, number 42, of course, aligns with Jackie Robinson Day, which is today, and obviously hasn't directly, changed us, but definitely indirectly impacted us by allowing us to watch some of our favorite players that we've ever seen in the game. And so quick shout out to Jackie Robinson and everything that he's done.
Mm-hmm.
But let's get right into our openers. And I'll let you go first because I'm going to have a question for you as part of my opener.
Okay. So my opener is something crazy that went down in college football this week. That's the Tennessee quarterback, Nico Iamaleava is how I've heard it most recently. I feel like it changes every year, but what I heard this week was Iamaleava. He's left Tennessee. He hit the portal. Turns out they were trying to have some sort of NIL extension or raise, and he stood his ground and said, no, I'm not going to play unless you pay me. And this is kind of the first time ever that the quarterback has pushed back. So now he's hit the portal. The biggest question is, where in the world is this guy going to land? Because it seems like no one's interested. We saw North Carolina. They got their quarterback today, Gio Lopez from South Alabama. Very good lefty. He was from the area, so he decided to stay at South Alabama for a year. Interesting. We'll get closer to the college football season. We'll dissect more of that. But I don't know, man. I kind of thought he did this because he was waiting for an Alabama or a USC, but it sounds like that's not even the case here. He may be waiting for a Big 12 guy to lose their job after spring practice, because I don't see a whole lot there other than UCLA. And his brother was committed there and ended up leaving. And now he's committed to Arkansas. So just a wild thing that's going to keep changing the game here. Obviously, there are no rules. The scouts and the media, they go by certain rules that they do to, I don't know, think that they're being fair, but there's nothing written down, hey, you cannot leave after this point in the season. That's not a rule. So Nico Iamaleava is out at Tennessee. They were a top 10 team last year, and now he's gone.
Yeah. We talked about this briefly yesterday. We both kind of settled upon something that you said in there, that he's probably going to, take a little bit to make this decision. It'll probably be a, team, obviously a big school, but somebody who looks at their starting quarterback in June and says, oh shit, we are not going to win a lot of games with this guy. And that's when Nico, gets a huge NIL deal, or even maybe not that big, and ends up being a starter for a pretty solid team. And I assume leads them to be a pretty solid squad as well too, with him on the roster. My opener is a question for you, because something that I always like doing, as baseball season goes on, you just look at the stats. You look, every couple of days, you look at the leaderboards and whatever stat. And I was looking at the WAR leaderboards coming into today, and the top 5 right now for hitters goes Corbin Carroll, Aaron Judge, Fernando Tatis Jr., Kyle Tucker, and one other person. Could you guess who that other person is?
Just for hitters or for all that?
Just for hitters. Just for hitters.
Is it Soderstrom?
No, it's close. Soderstrom is 21st right now.
Okay.
I'll give you one more guess, and then from there I'll cut it out.
Willie Abreu?
Willie Abreu is a good one. He's in 8th right now.
Okay.
The person that I have sitting at 4th, tied with Kyle Tucker at WAR at 1.2, is Geraldo Perdomo, which is just absurd. I didn't realize he was having that good of a season. Obviously, it goes to defense as well too. When you look at his StatCast page, he's in 100th percentile as far as range goes, fielding. But this guy's on an incredible tear to start the season. He has struck out 2 times over his first 69 at-bats this season and has walked 13 times. So that's a pretty damn good K to walk ratio. He's not hitting the ball hard or anything like that, but squaring it up to the best of his ability. Only 2 homers, but an OPS at 938 right now. Just so quick shout out to Geraldo Perdomo. I haven't seen anybody say anything about him, so I didn't even know he was having this good of a year. But pretty ridiculous numbers that he's putting up on both sides of the ball in the first couple of weeks of the season. So just wanted to give him a quick shout out for a guy that I said just a few weeks ago should probably lose his job for the prospect that they've had in the minors for a couple of years in Jordan Lawler.
I did see he walked 8 times last week.
Yeah, pretty ridiculous stuff that he's doing. If he's your player of the week, I'm sorry that I just spoiled that. But we'll move into the player of the week now, which prompts me to ask you, who's your player of the week?
Yeah, well, he's definitely an honorable mention, but I decided to go with Jung-Hoo Lee. This is where I apologize to my National League Bust of the Year because he was really loving that short porch in the Bronx. 3 homers, 8 ribbies, 4 walks this week. Now we see some of that power from Lee. San Francisco's won a few games because of the offense this time around, and they've gone 4-1 since we last talked. So I'm going to give it to Jung-Hoo Lee.
Yeah, I wanted to go with Jung-Hoo Lee, but I decided to go with Austin Riley instead. 12 for 26 over the past 7 days, a double, 3 homers, 7 RBIs, and OPS north of 1,300. This guy last year, we were kind of waiting on when would he start to get going. Never really got to be the Austin Riley that we expect him to. Seems now that he's really back to the form that we all expect from him now at this point, which is a potential 40 homer, third baseman every single year. Takes us to the pitcher of the week. This one felt pretty easy for me.
Michael King. The complete game shutout is a dying art, so it doesn't really matter that this game was against Colorado because it was one of the best pitched games of the season so far. 8 strikeouts, only 3 base runners allowed. He had a very good start against Colorado.
Yeah, like you said, not too many people getting complete game shutouts nowadays, so whenever someone gets one, they're pretty much a lock to get the pitcher of the week. And Michael King did just that. Like you said, against Colorado, who cares? Still a big league team. Only 2 hits allowed, 1 walk, 8 Ks. You're still going to be incredibly efficient to get through 9 innings nowadays. So Michael King gets my pitcher of the week as well, too. Takes us to the rookie of the week.
I'm going to go with Jackson Jobe of the Tigers. 6 shutout in Minnesota. His first win and first dominant start. First of many. Just great to see finally just 6 innings of dominance from a top prospect who we've been watching for a long time.
Yeah. My rookie of the week is going to be Cameron Meisner, a guy who got his MLB The Show card a couple of weeks ago, but had a big day yesterday, which really resulted in this, where he hit 2 homers, his first multi-homer game, of course, but went 6 for 14 over the week, a double, those 2 homers, 3 RBIs, a stolen base, and an OPS in the 1400s. The Rays are doing it again, man. Whether it's Cameron Meisner, Jake Mangum, Mason Montgomery, whoever it is, they turn guys into studs. And Meisner's just, one of many over there in Tampa Bay that's getting it done.
Yeah.
Takes us to the power rankings. We did these a couple of weeks ago. We're going to do them again today. Obviously, early in the season is going to make things be quite volatile. A lot of moving up and a lot of moving down. I don't have any honorable mentions because of that. But do you have any team outside of the 15 that you want to talk about?
Well, 3 teams that I ended up dropping this week were Baltimore from the 5 spot, Houston from the 9, and Kansas City from the 12.
All right. Let's get it started with number 15 then.
All right. At 15, I got the St. Louis Cardinals moving down a couple spots. They're 8-8, but I felt like they deserve to stay here because 500 is still much better than I thought they would be at this point. Fantastic start from Arenado. The rotation's been above average, so everything is basically still wide open in the Central.
Number 15, moving down 1 spot, even though they had a rough couple of weeks, is going to be the Boston Red Sox. Rough series this past weekend against the White Sox where they lost 2 out of 3. Rough series before that against the Blue Jays where they lost 3 out of 4. And a rough game yesterday where they lost 16-1. Against the Tampa Bay Rays, but I still really like this Red Sox team. This lineup still comes to hit most days. They just need some more consistent pitching, and I think they'll get that as we get later on into the season. So still sticking on to that 15 spot is where I have the Red Sox. Number 14, sorry.
At number 14 is a team that I did not rank last week. That's the Toronto Blue Jays, and I think it might be time to take them seriously again because half the battle is the attitude in the clubhouse. Vlad got paid. Bo Bichette looks happy for the first time in years watching him out there. If that core, including Springer, off to a great start, stays together, they're going to make a little bit of noise. They've definitely asserted dominance on Boston and Baltimore, who, shocker, were left off my list again.
Number 14 for me, moving up from NA, so they weren't on the rankings 2 weeks ago, is where I have the Tampa Bay Rays. Like I said, with Meisner, they just keep on finding ways to get guys to perform for them. And their top prospect, Junior Caminero, is really starting to perform these past couple of days where I think he's hit like 3 homers over the past 2 games or something like that. He's starting to hit the ball really well. Jonathan Aranda, my breakout pick, currently holds the highest average in the MLB right now, which feels really good. And the pitching is always going to be there for them. So Tampa Bay Rays sneaking back into that top half of the league at number 14 for me. Number 13.
At 13, I got the Cleveland Guardians dropping down from 11. They're still 8-7, but I'm a little nervous about the roster construction. And we know firsthand as A's fans that the Moneyball lineup doesn't really work if the pitching staff isn't good. And they haven't at all this season. But what they did do was take care of business in the Central. That's what matters to them right now. So if they look good against Kansas City, Chicago, Minnesota, then they're a top 15 team still.
Number 13 for me, another team that I did not have ranked the last time that we did this, the Cincinnati Reds. And this is mainly just because of how good Hunter Green's been. He'd be my pick. I'm sure your pick as well, too, for NL Cy Young through the first couple of weeks of the season. The offense hasn't quite woken up yet. Ellie De La Cruz hasn't completely got going, except for his big day a couple of weeks ago, and then that grand slam he hit against the Pirates over the weekend. But maybe the Reds are coming, and if they are, I'm going to be here for it. So winners of their 5 out of last 6, they get on the board for me. Number 12.
At 12, it's another unranked team for everybody this season. It's the LA Angels. A shocking 9-6 start with 7 road wins already. They've hit a ton of homers. Legend Mike Trout returning, and lesser-known prospect outside of California, Kyron Paris, number 1 in OPS right now. I don't know how long they can keep doing this, but by far it's the best offense in the division. ALS is struggling a little bit, so they are in the top half of the league now.
Yeah, there's probably one team in the AL West that's doing better than expected, and that's the Angels, so they do get my number 12 spot as well, too. Like you said, the lineup's just been going berserk. I believe they lead or are tied for the lead in most homers in the big leagues right now. Mike Trout has, I think, 6 at this point. Taylor Ward has 5. Logan O'Hoppe has a ton of them. Kyron Paris has a ton of them, like you mentioned. And the pitching's been pretty solid as well, too, outside of a couple of games against the Houston Astros this past weekend. Surprising start for the Halos, so they got to get on the top 15 for now. Number 11.
I'm going to put another unranked team above them. I've Cincinnati 1 spot up at the 11. Green, Lodolo, and Singer. As predicted, these 3 guys have been pretty much unstoppable when they don't lose 1-0. They might just be the Mariners of the National League, just coming off a good week. But the 8-8 Reds have a lot more going for them than their division rivals so far. St. Louis at the 15 spot for me still, like I said, and Milwaukee not on the board, probably for either of us for a while. So just a massive advantage to get a head start in a close division. So, yeah, I got Cincinnati Reds at 11, 1 spot over the Angels.
Number 11 for me, moving down 5 spots, is going to be the first of many teams I have from the AL Central. Starting with the Kansas City Royals. Not a bad couple of weeks, even though they do move down 5 spots. Took 3 out of 4 from Minnesota and 2 out of 3, or they lost 2 out of 3 against Cleveland this weekend. Just a lot of teams in the NL are playing better, so it's forcing a lot of AL teams down who just, hover around 500. And Kansas City ends up being one of those victims. Number 10.
At 10, I got the Texas Rangers. I'm only going to drop them down 2 spots, and there's not a whole lot of proof that they are still a top 10 team at 9-7, but what they do have is the starting pitching. You can trust them in a big game. Whenever the lineup does get healthy again, I'm going to take Evaldi, DeGrom, Molly, and Jack Leiter over some of the other surprising starts in the AL.
Number 10 for me is going to be another Central team moving down 5 spots. It's the Cleveland Guardians. They swept the White Sox, took 2 out of 3 from the Kansas City Royals, and now starting a good series against the Baltimore Orioles, who both of them haven't really gotten out to the starts that they've wanted so far. Again, another team that hasn't played bad over these past couple of weeks, but moves down a little bit because of all these other teams in the NL that are so hot right now. Number 9.
The number 9, I got a pretty big riser. The Detroit Tigers up from the 15 spot. Man, this is a filthy pitching staff. And the main reason that they are 10-6 has been Skubal, Flaherty, Mize, and Jackson Jobe all having elite starts. The lineup's always going to be a question, but a great start from a certain former number 1 overall pick. And now Gleyber Torres is coming back from injury. Things should be better for Detroit.
Number 9 for me is going to be a team moving down 6 spots. The Philadelphia Phillies, not off to the greatest starts this year, even though they are a couple of games over 500. That's because of their lineup just not producing the way that we expect them to so far. They did have a series win against the Dodgers, which is huge, but a series loss against the Atlanta Braves when they were completely struggling. A series loss against the Cardinals, who we know are the Cardinals, and then a really bad loss to the Giants yesterday has led me to put the Philadelphia Phillies as of right now in the number 9 spot. Will they be there forever? Probably not. They'll probably jump back up, but I can't put them any higher with all these other teams just going ham above them. Number 8.
At 8 is where I got the Arizona Diamondbacks. I'm going to drop them down 1 spot. If you remember, I was a little more cautious with them than some other teams, and they're 9-7 so far. And the bats have pretty much all carried over from last season. They've been around 500 since Cattell got hurt, but they looked pretty good against the Yankees. Brandon Pfaadt has been really good, but Corbin hasn't. So we'll keep them in the top 10 for now, but we'll keep an eye on Arizona.
Number 8, moving up from 16 and on because they weren't in my rankings last week. The Detroit Tigers currently the team in the AL with the most wins. The only team with double digits as of right now, which is kind of crazy to say because we're nearing each team to play 17, 18 games. But the Detroit Tigers sit at the top, and that's because they played good ball throughout this year so far. Swept the White Sox, took 2 out of 3 from the Yankees, took 2 out of 3 from the Minnesota Twins in Minnesota, and then beat the shit out of the Brewers yesterday. The Tigers playing good ball, best run differential in the AL as well, too. They've only allowed 57 runs in 16 games. And the lineup's been pretty damn good as well, too. So the Detroit Tigers make their way into the top 10 for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
Going to number 7.
At 7's where I got the Phillies. Also had them up high. I had them at the 3 spot last time, too. Not the ideal start for them, but they've started off way worse than this in the past. And they did get that big series win against the Dodgers. It's been all about the lefties for Philly so far. Luzardo, Sanchez, Alvarado, and Matt Strahm, they've all stepped up big time because really slow starts from Wheeler and Nola so far.
Number 7 for me, moving down 3 spots, still a team I have a ton of faith in, is the Arizona Diamondbacks. I think I'm a bit higher on them, obviously, because I have them at a higher ranking than you are. The pitching, I'm not too worried yet. I know Corbin hasn't gotten off to a great start, and they're battling some injuries. But the lineup with Corbin Carroll playing the way that he is at an MVP level right now leads the MLB and more. And Geraldo Perdomo, who I talked about earlier, off to the great start that he is. Josh Naylor's been solid as well, too. Eugenio Suarez, big hits. And the bullpen being solid as well, too. I like this Arizona Diamondbacks team. With that being said, I do move them down 3 spots. So on to number 6.
At number 6, I'm going to keep the Chicago Cubs at the same spot that I had them. I don't feel like they need to move yet because they've been really fun to watch. And that offense put a beating on the Dodgers last weekend. They've scored 120 runs this season. That's 21 more than the Yankees and just 1 more game played. So very good for the Cubbies. Justin Steele's hurt. That's going to be a problem most likely for the future. But as of right now, they are scoring enough runs to combat that.
Yeah. Number 6 is also going to be the Chicago Cubs for me. They get a big jump moving up 6 spots. Like you said, the Justin Steele injury hurts, but hopefully they can navigate that maybe by promoting a top prospect. They have a ton of guys in AAA that can throw some big league innings for them, and I'm sure that they'll find a way to do that. But you don't have to be that good when your offense is scoring as many runs as they're scoring right now. They don't really have a weak spot, even in your backup catcher at offense right now, whether it's Carson Kelly or Miguel Amaya, whoever you're throwing in the backstop is hitting right now. Pretty much anybody that you have on the lineup is hitting, except for Matt Shaw, who they sent down today.
Yeah.
But obviously probably won't be forever until he's back up. Kyle Tucker's been great. They just took 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers, lost yesterday to the Padres, who we will talk about soon. That just tells you how good the Padres are this season. But yeah, the Cubs are one of the teams I feel like, even though I predicted they're over, I still feel like I'm quite wrong about how good I thought they would be. They look like one of the best teams in the league, and that's why they're at number 6 for both of us. Number 5.
At 5's where I got the Mets. They're up 5 spots from 10. Another team I was more cautious with because there's a lot of moving pieces. And it was a rough start, but they've gone 8-2 since then because of their makeshift rotation. They got the number 1 ERA in baseball with the 2.22. It's been all Senga, McGill, Peterson, and Clay Holmes for them so far.
At number 5 for me, coming off of a couple series losses, I moved the Yankees down 3 spots to number 5. Maybe a bit surprising, but I think their play over the past week definitely, determines this factor of them moving down 3 spots. Aaron Judge, obviously still great, but hasn't quite been what he was in the first couple of weeks of the year, or first week of the year, that is. Ben Rice, been amazing. Josh Chisholm hasn't exactly been as good as what he was in the first week either. Pitching's been solid, but I don't know. The Yankees will bounce back. They'll be a top 5 team pretty much the entire year for me, I'd imagine. So I'm not panicking, with them at 9-7 or whatever it is through 16 games. Number 4.
I moved the Yankees down as well, but only 2 spots so far. 9-7 is tied with a whole bunch of different teams, and outside of Max Fried, there's a lot of problems with the pitching staff. But that lineup is hot. Judge, Volpe, Jazz, Ben Rice, Trent Grisham. All these guys have over 4 homers. And I don't see those guys slowing down, especially when the weather starts to get warm over there in New York. They were battling some pretty crappy weather last week. So maybe they get into a better groove and you don't have Jazz in a slump. And maybe they do get back to the top 2 of our list. But we did have to bump them down a little bit.
Number 4, probably the biggest jump for a team that's not been on the rankings the past couple of weeks. And that's where I have the San Francisco Giants. The 12-4 start is one of the best in franchise history for a franchise that has a ton of history. This past 4 games is really what got me to put them in the top 5 and into that 4 spot, with taking 2 out of 3 from the Yankees in New York and then having that rough start yesterday against Philly and then bouncing back and ended up being pretty much a blowout 10-4 victory, losing right now to the Phils. But with how that offense has been, I would not be shocked if they come back and win in a big way. So the Giants are playing well. Jung Hoo Lee's been great. Willie Adames maybe starting to heat up, hit his first homer yesterday. Same thing with Tyler Fitzgerald. Pitching, especially the bullpen's been solid. So the Gigantes and their cool City Connect unis that they just revealed, in my opinion. So that's the number 4 spot. On to the top 3.
Number 3 is where I got the Giants, and this will most likely be the largest move all season long, 14-3. And it might be early for them, but like you said, man, after they manhandled the Yankees, it was definitely a good sign that they were for real. Also played very well against the Phillies so far in 1.5 games, and the Astros. It's one of the best resumes in baseball. They're hitting a ton of homers. They're not giving up runs. And it looks like as long as that rotation stays healthy, they can keep it going.
My number 3 team is going to be the New York Mets, moving up 5 spots. You told me through the first 16 games that the Mets have a plus 24 run differential. I'd be surprised, but I wouldn't be shocked. If you told me that the Mets have allowed 42 runs in their first 16 games, I would be utterly shocked. And that's exactly where they're at right now. So maybe the offense hasn't been as good as what we've expected, but the pitching has just been phenomenal for them right now. And I guess, the Yankee fans are probably going to be like, oh, well, you've played 6 against the Marlins. You haven't played the greatest teams. But they've got the job done, and they've done what they needed to so far. So I got the Mets at the number 3 spot, and I would not be shocked as they get more pitching back for them to be around that top 3 to 5 spot for the majority of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2.
At 2 is where I got the San Diego Padres, up only 2 spots for me because I had them at 4, if you remember. And I did have a feeling that they were going to be staying in the top 5 a little longer. Turns out they have gone 11-0 at home, a big 3 in the rotation with King, Cease, who figured it out yesterday, so I'm going to give him a break, and Nick Pivetta. A bunch of production in the lineup from the usual suspects, but also resurgence of Xander Bogaerts and Luis Arias. The veterans are still hitting well. It's kind of a all coming together at the same time. It's what you like to see to start a season.
And number 2 is going to be where I had the San Diego Padres as well. They move up 7 spots for me. This is a team I believe I took their under preseason, and that does not look like a good choice as of right now. But they've just been dominating. Whether it's the bullpen, whether it's the starting pitching, whether it's the lineup, they've navigated injuries. Everything's rolling for them right now. And I saw somebody say on Twitter, a Padres fan, say that they've watched pretty much every game, every inning at Padres baseball in the last 20 years, and this stretch of games is the best that they've ever seen them play in their life. And I believe that because the first 15 years of that were very shitty. So it wasn't that good. Somebody was comparing it to a month in 2021 when the Padres, I don't even think they made the playoffs in 21. But regardless, they're a fun team, and they're playing really good ball right now. Hopefully Jackson Merrill back soon. We saw Cronenworth get hurt. We saw Tatis go out for a couple of days against the A's as well too. But the Padres look really damn good right now, and they deserve their 14-3 record, which is the best record in baseball at this moment. But there's one team, and I know Padres fans are absolutely going to hate that we have this one team above them. Who is that one squad sitting in that number 1 spot?
Yeah, the Dodgers are staying put. They got hit pretty hard by the Cubs, but I'm not worrying yet. They're 12-6. And when the rest of the league is at 500 or worse, you can lose a couple games. I still like them over their division rivals. I feel like it's a lot easier to say that the Giants are having a fluky start compared to the Dodgers because we know what comes next. It's a grind of a season. You have to have depth, and the Dodgers got more than most teams.
Yeah, number 1, not moving at all, is the Dodgers, and it will probably be that way for a long time unless they see some drastic injuries or go on this crazy losing streak. It's like the Chiefs effect. You can't really dethrone them until you are completely convinced that they will be dethroned. And as of right now, they haven't played good ball and they're 12-6. Like, that doesn't happen often. You don't go through a stretch of 18 games where your run differential is +2 and come out 6 games over 500 very often. This team is still really damn good. I assume they, continue that 2 wins to 1 win pace for pretty much the entirety of the season and push, 110, 115, and even that 116 record that we had a couple of weeks ago, them breaking. So Dodgers still at the number 1 spot, and that does not surprise me one bit. Moving into our rare basketball segments, because that's going on right now. We have the NBA playoffs starting technically on Saturday, but the play-in will be today, tomorrow, and Friday. I hate the play-in completely. I hate that we have to talk about it. But I guess we'll go in this way, talk about this pre-episode, where we're not just going to, predict the games of the play-in, but just say, who do you think has the 7 seed in the West, and who do you think has the 8 seed in the West as well, too?
Mm-hmm. In the West, we'll start off there. I got Golden State getting the job done tonight for the 7. I think being at home helps a lot, even though they're tired. And I also like Sacramento's history in this tournament, too. Memphis is a complete disaster this season, so Sac's going to be my 8.
I got Memphis as the 8 seed and the Warriors as the 7 seed.
Okay.
Which takes us to the Eastern Conference. What are your playing teams there?
Yeah, I got Atlanta winning this first game on the road. The season series has been pretty much split, so I like Trae Young in a game like that. And then we'll go with Orlando getting the job done in game 2. They're too good to miss the playoffs.
My 7 seed is going to be the Orlando Magic as they win tonight. That game should be starting right about now. Atlanta up 10-9 as of right now. And then I have Miami actually making the Cinderella run, I guess, into the 8th spot to get to play the number 1 seeded Cavaliers that we'll talk about in a few minutes. But we'll start with the West in the first round, that 1 versus 8. You have OKC versus Sac. How do you think that series goes? Who wins in how many games? As Tyler Soderstrom now has the MLB lead in home runs. His 7th of the year. Sorry, that was a big update.
The sound of that
just happened. First to 7, which is awesome to see for Tyler Soderstrom. As the A's lead 3-0 without even an out occurring.
Banger. Wow.
Yeah.
I caught it
Put a
just in
smile on
time.
my face. Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
But
back to
OKC
basketball.
versus Sacramento for you. How do you have that series going?
Yeah, OKC is going to win this one in 4 games. Pretty self-explanatory. Sacramento is just not the right roster to be competing in the playoffs right now.
I got OKC in 5 versus Memphis.
Okay.
Shouldn't be too long of a series. Maybe a gentleman's sweep from OKC. 4-seeded Denver versus 5-seeded Clippers. A fun series always when we get to see two Western Conference teams go at it in such a close seeding matchup.
I have been extremely intrigued by this Clippers team ever since Kawhi came back because they have the perfect formula for this team right now. Harden and Zubats pick and roll. Harden with a 7-footer basically bumps them up 10 overalls, like in 2K sense. And Kawhi being a legit shot creator, that's a big 3 right there. That's a real big 3, despite their age. And I just can't trust Denver after this Mike Malone thing. I think Westbrook makes it too many mistakes in this series. They blow it. Clippers win in 6 games.
This is an interesting series because it's pretty much polar opposites. One really good offensive team versus one really good defensive team. And I'm going to take the team that's won it in the past couple of years. The Denver Nuggets to win in 7 games. I think this series goes back and forth. A lot of close games, which I think we'll see a ton of in the Western Conference this year. But I got Denver moving on in 7 games, which takes us to 3-seeded Lakers versus 6-seeded Minnesota.
Throughout LeBron's career, he's been able to turn on the switch and be able to guard anybody for 40 minutes in the playoffs. If anyone could slow them down, though, it's the young T-Wolves team. But I do like LeBron's matchup here. Julius Randle, if they do go small, is not going to have a shot against LeBron. Minnesota's going to have a couple games where they just cannot leave Gobert out there. And that's why I think the Lakers win in 7, even though Minnesota may be the better overall team.
Yeah, another fun series. I think definitely our first Ant versus LeBron series, but a cool narrative in that one with the old school versus the new school, so to speak. But I got LeBron getting the better of him this time. Not ready to pass the torch yet, if you will. Yep. Lakers win in 6 games. Takes us to fun one, Houston versus the Warriors. And could you call it an old school rivalry now at this point, going back 10 years ago?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe, I guess. But a fun matchup for us Warrior fans against a team that we've seen plenty of times in the past decade in the playoffs.
Yeah. This would be an awesome series with Houston not having that one guy to take the final shot compared to the Warriors, who everyone in the building knows who they want to get it to. I know that didn't really work out against the Clippers, but they know who their guy is. Houston doesn't. But Houston also plays unbelievable defense that's going to have an already tired and injured Steph Curry exhausted by the 6th or 7th game. So I have it going 7, but I'm going to take the kids. I'm going to take Houston. I hate to do it. But, dude, Curry's nursing about 8 different injuries right now. It just hurts to even look at him on the court. And he might be out of gas, man, especially if he has to play an extra game or 2 here in the play-in.
I would be with you if Stephen Curry hasn't gone to, 6 different finals in his career. Games in April are fucking nothing for this guy. Get this guy in June, maybe you might see him break a sweat. But Stephen Curry and the Dubs are getting the series. I'll take it in 6. These two teams are very similar when you look at points per game, opposing points per game wise. 2 very good defenses. But I'm taking the team that has experience. I'm taking the team that has big-time shot maker in Stephen Curry in big moments. And sure, you can call me biased, whatever, but I'm a pull for my team. And so I got the Warriors winning this 1 in 6.
That'd be sick.
Yeah, I would. Moving to the East, 1-seeded Cleveland versus 8-seeded Orlando. For you? Okay.
Yeah, I'll take Cleveland in 5 games. Give them the gentleman. Orlando plays very good defense, but they got too many injuries. I mean, if I don't even remember who's starting at point guard today. Corey Joseph starting at point guard for Orlando today. That's not going to get the job done against Cleveland.
Miami, Orlando, Atlanta, Chicago, Cavs in 4.
Okay.
That's all that matters. Moving on, another fun series here, actually. 4-seeded Pacers versus 5-seeded Milwaukee without Dame Lillard, at least to start the series.
Yeah, no Dame Lillard, just like last time they played each other. And, I've always been skeptical of Pascal Siakam being the legit number 2 option here on offense. And it's still the case when it comes to a finals run. But against Kuzma and Bobby Portis, they're going to be fine. I got Indiana in 6, just like last time.
I got the Pacers in this one in 7 games. I think it'll be a fun series. I think if Dame was there, they'd probably end up taking it. But without Dame, at least to start the series, I'll go with Indiana in a bunch of high-scoring games. So, give me the Pacers. 3-seeded Knicks versus 6-seeded Detroit. This feels like the 1980s when you say this matchup together. How do you feel about this one?
Absolutely. And I think it might even play out that way, too, because I got this one going to 7 games. It was a great matchup in the regular season. Detroit is just as physical as the Knicks. I'm going to take the Knicks, though, still, because they don't really have an answer for Towns and Brunson over in Detroit. I don't expect Bridges and Anunoby to have a problem with Detroit's bench guys shooting threes. They pretty much live on defending the corners over in New York with Thibodeau. So Knicks and 7.
Yeah, this is a fun series. Probably if I were to choose one series in this first round, that I'm like, I got to watch all the games for this, even though I probably won't watch all the games for it. It's going to be this Knicks-Pistons series because you're going to see a rivalry aspect to it, which is so fun to see in the playoffs. You're going to see probably like a fuck Cade Cunningham chant or something like that, as we've got to see with Trae Young in years past when Atlanta played the Knicks. But there's going to be some bad blood there. That's always fun to see in the sports sense. Isaiah Stewart's probably going to get an FU chant as well, too. Not definitely. He 100% will. But I got the Knicks in 6 because that's what they love to say over there. Knicks in 6. Moving on to Boston versus Orlando.
I got Atlanta over
Atlanta.
But yeah, same idea. Of course, it's going to be a short series, but I do think someday Atlanta will have the brighter future than some of these Eastern Conference teams, than Indiana and Detroit. I just think it's too many injuries for Atlanta. They need Jalen Johnson. And that's probably their best player. They're not going to have them. They're going to get swept.
Similar to the Cavs series in the 1-8, I got Boston winning 4 against whoever they play. In this scenario for me, I have Orlando, but Boston does just sweep whoever they're playing. Moving on to the Western Conference semis, you have OKC versus the Clippers. How does that go?
I think that OKC would much rather see the Lakers because the Clippers can play big with them. They got Zubats on Holmgren or Hardenstein. So I expect a really good series, but OKC probably forces Harden into too many mistakes. OKC's 1-8 in their rotation has maybe 7 of the best 20 defenders in the entire league. So this is just too early for them to get knocked out. I have OKC getting a little scare. They win this one in 7, though.
I have OKC versus Denver. 2 offensive teams, completely both averaging over 120 points per game, but the difference is about 10 points per game on the defensive side of the ball, better for the OKC Thunder, and that's the difference in this series. I think Denver just outpowers them in a couple of games, and Jokic just has these ridiculous stat lines because that's how the games will be dictated. But OKC wins in 6 and moves to the conference finals. The other series, you have Lakers versus Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how does that go?
I think Houston's still a year or 2 away, but they do remind me a lot of OKC from the past couple of years. The Lakers also beat their ass by 31 last week with all the starters in, so I'm going to take the Lakers to win in 6.
I have the Lakers versus the Warriors. The game a couple of weeks ago, probably a month ago now at this point, if it didn't happen or the Warriors won in not Staples Center but Crypto Arena, I would be okay. Yeah, this is where it ends. The Lakers got us. But we won. And Anthony Davis, who was our kryptonite with the Lakers for such a long time, is no longer there. And I think the Warriors match up way better against the Luka Doncic Warriors, Luka Doncic Lakers, and what they did with the Anthony Davis Lakers. So I got the Dubs winning in 7 games, moving to the conference finals, partially just like because I can't pick against them either.
That'd be the most watched non-finals ever.
Oh, 100%. Another
Yeah.
LeBron Steph series would be amazing. Moving to the Eastern Conference semis, another reason why you should pick the Dubs against the Rockets
Yeah.
is because the NBA will be pushing that series heavily.
Well, I'll be rooting for him, of course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But in the Eastern Conference semis, 1-seeded Cleveland versus 4-seeded Indiana. Jeez.
Yeah. This is the series that makes Indiana take a hard look in the mirror and realize that they're not on the same stratosphere as these other teams. And it's not the coaching, it's not Tyrese Halliburton, but they need to get that guy some shooters around them. Cleveland exposes Pascal Siakam this series with Evan Mobley, and they sweep them.
Yeah, quick series, I think, as well, too, for the Cavs. I had them sweeping last series. This one they get in 5 against the Pacers. Gentlemen sweep, I don't know. But I got the Cavs moving to the conference finals. Yeah. Knicks versus Boston, a fun series here.
Yeah, even though this is a fun rivalry, there's clearly a top 2 right now. Jaylen Brown, not Breen. Sorry, I combined announcer with a Rockets player. Jaylen Brown has some knee concerns. He got some injections, but worst case scenario, they're a way deeper team than the Knicks. They'll be prepared for that. And we all know how Tibbs operates in these late season series. If Miles McBride is playing 40 minutes and shooting 2 for 14 in those games, they're going to get destroyed on those nights. So I got Boston in 6.
Fun series. We saw these teams play a couple of weeks ago. Ended up being a really close game as well, too, on national television. All of these, of course, will be on national television. I have Boston winning in 7. I think this ends up being a close series. Can't exactly tell you why because I haven't watched a ton of them this year. But, yeah, I'll go with Boston to win in 7. Which takes us to the Western Conference Finals. You got OKC versus the Lakers.
Yes.
Ooh, how's that go?
Yeah, despite the West being an absolute juggernaut this season, OKC still has the edge all the way through this bracket. The way that it falls this year, they force way more turnovers than they commit. I think LeBron runs out of juice for the first time in his career, and he even contemplates retiring. So I got OKC winning this one in 6. The MVP, of course, is going to be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's likely the MVP of the league, too, this season. I just think this is a really good matchup for OKC. I was looking for maybe could we have some crazy upset in the Western Conference, and I just don't really have it in this scenario.
I got the Warriors versus the Thunder in this scenario. We tied the season series with them, I guess. I'm pretty sure. And I can't pick against my team, man. I really can't. I know it looks delusional from the outsider's perspective, but I'll go Warriors in 7 against the OKC Thunder. Just, I guess if you really talk yourself into it, it's like you got to lose to win is the biggest thing I think in the NBA. And OKC with this regime really hasn't experienced that hard loss yet, where you just realize maybe you're not quite there yet. And I think the Warriors give them that loss in 7 games.
I really hope that's the team that's doing it, if there is a mystery team.
Yeah. Moving on to the Eastern Conference Finals, 1-seeded Cleveland versus 2-seed Boston. For both of us, how does that series go?
Yeah, 2-2 in the regular season series. Amazing season for Cleveland. They all finally buy in. Even Donovan Mitchell's not thinking about the Knicks anymore. But I still think that Boston's got one more in them here. And they're going to go to 7, too. The biggest difference in the past year with this matchup, though, is even though Cleveland has become a defensive nightmare, Jason Tatum has become this super-duper star now. Not just a good scorer, but one of the best 5 players in the league. He scored 46 the last time these guys played. And I think he goes after the big awards, too. So I'm going to take Boston in 7. MVP goes to Jason Tatum because he is the best player in the series.
1-seed Cleveland versus 2-seeded Boston. I got Boston in 5, and it kind of a bit of a shocker as far as quick as that series goes. I just don't believe in Cleveland, man. I really don't. Boston's got the pedigree; they've done it before. Cleveland, I just don't see them stacking up well against the Celtics in a 7-game series format. So I got Boston moving on. A rather quick series. A very quick series in 5 games. Which takes us to the finals. You got Cleveland versus OKC.
Boston.
Boston versus OKC. My bad.
Yeah.
How does that go?
I think we got 7 games in my scenario, and I'm really happy about that. Maybe that's why I ended up with these two teams. They would put together the best 7-game series. In the NBA, you usually get about 5 seasons with your big 2 stars before you kind of have to change things up. It's been 7 years for Brown and Tatum since they took LeBron to 7 games in the Eastern Conference Finals. This kind of thing doesn't happen very often, and I think Boston does get one more championship with this team. I think this is the peak of Boston. It probably goes downhill, at least as a super team, from this point. Porzingis, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, Jaylen Brown, they're all in their prime right now. This is the best those guys will ever be. And although this is really tough luck for Cleveland and OKC, those two teams are going to be back. It's going to be their turn eventually. But if Boston wins back-to-back titles, they have no more to prove for this decade. OKC will make this one interesting. That's why it's going to 7, but I'm taking Boston in 7 for the back-to-back. My MVP is going to be Jason Tatum. Like I said earlier, it's a lot more common to see the super-duper star beat the well-rounded team. And if my pick is wrong, then that means that we do get that insane upset, and they probably lose to the Cavs, which would also be entertaining. But I think that Boston solidifies the era with this one. If they can reclaim the title, back-to-back wins, Jason Tatum flies off into the sunset. He doesn't have to do anything for the next 10 years if he gets this one.
Yeah. Well, my finals pick, I got the Warriors versus Boston. And we actually have history to indicate what will happen in this series. The Warriors won in 6 when they played before. What's different about those teams? You take out Jordan Poole, you add Brandon Podziemski, I guess. You take out Wiggins, you add Jimmy Butler. That's a pretty big difference, I'd say. You look at Boston's side, what's different? Literally, what's different? Peyton Pritchard's getting more minutes now. Don't matter. Dubs in 6. What Finals MVP Jimmy Butler? He gets it over Steph. Just has a couple triple doubles, and I think that gets it down a couple big shots late in games.
Yeah.
And I'm being delusional, so I might as well have a delusional pick and get Jimmy Butler a Finals MVP. I think this might be. I don't think we've done a playoff predictions that the Warriors are in that I have not picked them to win the title. And to be fair, I don't think I've been wrong every single time either, because we've won ever since we started doing
I
this
think I told you were crazy
ago.
when we played Boston last time.
Yeah. But if I'm right, it looks amazing. If I'm wrong, I'm just a fan, man. I'm just a fan. But that takes us to the second half, concluded with basketball for now. How do you think it goes in this other stuff that you want to talk about?
Yeah, sure. I mean, definitely wanted to get those basketball picks in. That's the main focus this week. But there's a couple of football things we got to touch on real quick because the NFL draft is in 9 days. So next week, probably have a couple of things we could talk about, maybe try to predict the top 12 or so. We'll see what happens when we get there. But the biggest issue with the draft and trying to figure out who's going to take who is everybody is trying to trade back, and it is just not happening. We've had multiple teams today, and I know they're mostly just rumors, but there's something to it because it started with Tennessee. Sounds like they are just going to stick and take the quarterback because they couldn't trade the pick. The Jets at 7 are desperately trying to trade the pick. We know this because all of their interviews with players are guys ranked in 20 to 40 range, not guys ranked in the top 10. So that makes me think they're trying to trade back. Carolina just straight up said, hey, if anyone needs a quarterback, come jump the Saints. Take them at our spot. Saints we'll get to in a second. And then also we heard that the Cowboys didn't really want to pick a guy at 12 this year because it sounds like maybe Ashton Genty will not be there. That really sucks for teams that were looking to trade back. Of course, for teams that need a quarterback. So we'll go to the Saints. Derek Carr's got the shoulder injury, a small fracture. Career's in jeopardy now. That definitely opens up Shadur Sanders at 9. That opens up any sort of trade that we weren't looking for at the time because so many other teams had issues. And, well, most of the veterans are signed. New Orleans didn't get anybody. This is another spot that's open. So every second that passes, I'm thankful that we just went ahead and grabbed Justin Fields for 2 years because that's better than starting a 4th-round rookie, man.
It's true. True.
All right. That's all I have
Yeah.
from my end.
Yeah, next week we'll do a mock draft. Both sides. I'm not sure how many picks will go. We'll see. We'll see how it ends up going. I think last year we did 15, but maybe we do more. Maybe we do less. Probably not less, but yeah, we'll see about that. Into the bets, so last week was not good for us. We went 1 for 4. I had the Mets versus Miami under 8.5 on Wednesday.
I thought it was
I thought
over.
that was
My
green.
bad.
Yeah, that was green. I'm pretty sure. So we actually went 2 out of 4. I changed the text instead of my bad. But anyways,
I thought that was a O. My bad.
that goes green because I'm like, yeah, Max Meyer pitched really, really well in that game. Marlins won, I believe, 5-0 in that one, if I remember correctly. Skyler had Houston over Seattle on Wednesday. That one did not hit, unfortunately. But yeah, like you said, a good game. Anyways, Houston does not get the win there. This week, might as well stick with basketball. So I have the Warriors over Houston in the series. So we won't know about this one next week unless it goes really bad for one of the teams. But yeah, I got the Dubs over the Rockets.
Okay.
And not hypothetical.
Yeah, I guess my basketball picks will also play here as something to brag about next week once we come back to it. But I didn't have any crazy upsets, really, so we'll stick to baseball for this pick, too. I got Cleveland over Pittsburgh as my layup on Friday night. That's Luis Ortiz. Rough start, but he actually had 10 Ks and no runs given up in his last start. Very good. He's facing Mladzinski, the 6th starter for Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's a disaster. I'll take Cleveland. And even on ESPN, they gave for that day Cleveland only like a 42% chance to win. I was like, yeah, right.
Moving into bold predictions, last week I had Devers homer on Wednesday. That did not happen. Skyler had Milwaukee over Arizona on Friday. That did happen. Yeah, there you go. This week, I took something that we were talking about earlier at plus 1,600, at least for what the odds are when you look at various sports books, which is the Warriors to win it all. So the Dubs plus 1,600 to around plus 2,000 to win it all, which is crazy.
Yeah, definitely way more bold than my prediction here. Like I said, I wanted to stick with a couple more baseball picks just to, always look at the games on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Series that actually just happened. Chicago, I have them winning on Friday night at Boston this time. Martin Perez is going for the White Sox. I really like that matchup against a struggling lineup for Boston, at least down the stretch, struggling, maybe not the entire year. And they're still undecided on that pitcher. We saw Tanner Huck got roughed up a bit in his last start. Looks like they may be going with a quad A guy in that game. So we'll take the White Sox for a sneaky Friday win.
That's going to do it, though, for episode 240. Next week, 241, like we talked about, the draft for the NFL will be going on Thursday, so we'll talk about it on Tuesday, just prior. Probably talk some baseball, probably look a little bit at the series that are going on in the NBA, even though those just starting to get going. And yeah, you got any other closing remarks?
Happy Jackie Robinson Day, and go Dubs.
Of course, go Dubs.
Go Dubs. We'll see you next week.